See, based on the current scenario, and this is probably the best time ever, whether you look at government policies, you look at the geopolitical situation, you look at the current state of the economy, everybody's saying this is India's decade, right? So right from mobile phones, you look at the retail market, every market in India is booming. And again, I think India's recovery in the pandemic has been tremendous, and that itself has presented a lot of opportunities. The stock market is doing very well. Overall, the industry is good. So I think if you just look at all of these macro factors and you bring it down to the PCB manufacturing industry, it's definitely going to perform very well. Now, again, another very important thing is that the existing base is very low. So the growth is definitely going to be in high double digits. There is no doubt about the fact that India as a electronics manufacturing destination is only going to gain traction, and companies are moving out from China. A lot of global companies are now implementing their China +1 policy. Earlier it was just a policy, but now it's being implemented. Companies are coming to India, and depends, if they're product companies, that's good, because then they bring in their supply chain, which is an assembly company, then the assembly company brings in its supply chain, which becomes PCB. So it's just a growth path from here on. If you look at this 5 years from now, you will definitely see this trajectory is going to be this way. See, I think you probably must have heard in today's seminar that Indian companies are already exporting about 45 to 50% of their production. So that's a good figure, and the fact that the numbers will grow in terms of domestic manufacturing, the exports will automatically grow. The important factor is to bring in the ecosystem, because that helps us becoming more competitive. Our reliance on the imported supply chain will then go down. So therefore, exports will get further boost. Lastly, the government is definitely working on SOPs for the industry and working on making exports better. The policy framework is changing. The SEZ Act is being abolished, and a new act is coming in. And again, we all have seen that the rupee actually has performed much better than all the other currencies in the region, and compared to our peers. And then again, the GDP growth, world's topmost people are saying that 7-8% is what's going to be. See, challenges are quite a bit, but in a nutshell, I would put it into three. One is supply chain ecosystem that has to be seriously looked at, so that certain entrepreneurs or certain large companies can start to manufacture those commodities or those raw materials within the country. Number two, policy framework has to be very, very crisp and crystal clear, so that if there are companies looking for joint ventures, and I said it in my chance at the seminar, that whether it's Chinese or Taiwanese or Thai companies, you should invite everybody for technology. We don't have it, so we need it. Put measures in place so that it's not a challenge for the country on a political side, but policy framework has to be very, very important. And the third is that the PCB industry by itself should be, again, I believe this, should be given infrastructure and high priority sector status, because the needs for the PCB industry can only be met when those things are in place. trust me, there will be tons of companies who will be wanting to come to this country to manufacture PCBs if those things are taken care of. Water requirement, power requirement, effluent treatment plant, becoming a common ETP, which either the state or the center can help set that up. Common infrastructure, all these things are going to really help. Like the Gati Shakti program, that's going to help because it ties up the entire logistics infrastructure. So all these things are very, very good. See, there is no doubt about it that when you look at other countries, India's demographics are probably the best, right? The middle class, the age, most countries in the world, whether you look at Japan, Taiwan, Europe, they have tremendously aging populations. So India does not have any of those disabilities. So the pool of resources is available. How do we harness that pool is very important. And I believe so that the industry, academia and the government have to get their act together, come together, make tailor-made programs for meeting the aspirations of the youth, so that they are willing to join the workforce in terms of not only PCBs but manufacturing on the whole. Everybody tends to run to the services sector, and that's for obvious reasons. But if the manufacturing sector is given the due importance, is marketed well, and as I said, the aspirations of the youth have been taken care of, there is no reason why the skill set cannot be enhanced. We have time and again proven that India's engineering talent is best in the world, and it can definitely do so in this space as well. But we need to give an opportunity to the youth to be able to harness and hone their skills, and that will only happen when all the three bodies get together. So Infopower Technologies is one of the group companies of the Sahasra Group. The Sahasra Group is in electronic manufacturing services. We are in IT hardware. Infopower by itself is in PCB manufacturing. We are going to be the first company that's getting into semiconductor packaging when we open our facility in December, January later this year. Specifically PCB, from an Infopower standpoint, we are investing rapidly. In fact, we are going to expand our production capacity by 3x in the next 1.5 to 2 years. We currently export, deemed export and direct export put together. Out of our production capacity, 66% is towards deemed and direct export. So we will continue to focus on exports because it brings in a lot of value. It helps us maintain our quality and also gets access to technology via customer connect. So we definitely believe in the PCB manufacturing space. It's strategic to us internally because it's a captive plant for ourselves. But the focus on growing the PCB manufacturing is not only for captive consumption, it's for supplying to others in the industry as well. And we definitely do not want to miss out on the growth in the PCB domain, and we will continue to invest in this domain in the higher end value add technology as well. First of all, I would like to say that the taxation system is much simpler today. Since the onset of GST, the taxation is not as complicated as it used to be. Yes, within the GST structure, there are different rates, which sometimes causes confusion.
The import duty has been quite higher.
Right. So there is confusion there. So that needs to be rationalized so that the GST rates, instead of being multiple, there are only one or two. As far as the import duty goes, actually, PCBs being one of the categories where when India signed up to the IT1 agreement of WTO, a finished PCB comes in India as a complete product and it comes at zero duty. Whereas the raw material comes in with duty, which is a slight problem. And when the raw material comes in with duty, companies like ours who are in manufacturing, we have to apply for certificates to be able to make that duty percentage be waived off. Now, that's a bit of a hassle, which requires a lot of paperwork, etc. And so, if that can be looked at by the government to be able to for it to be removed, then that makes our processing and paperwork much simpler. But generally, I would say from a GST standpoint, the entire industry is probably happy with that. Yes, there are other things that the government can probably help with as indirect things that they can do. As I said, help the industry because it's a very demanding industry in terms of power, water consumption. So if PCB industry can be given special status and therefore taxation in terms of, let's say, the electricity duty can be reduced, the water rates can be reduced. So indirect benefits are what we're looking at. So we definitely at Infopower, as I already mentioned, are continuing to invest in the PCB manufacturing space. Our aim is to be amongst the top 10 PCB manufacturing players within the next 3 years in India. And we are actively looking at joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions to be able to scale up either with like-minded companies or even overseas players, so that we can actually achieve the numbers that we're looking at.